Hello, today I'll be reporting on the containment theory. My name is Dennis Lopez. I'll be reporting for Dr. Frederick Green, Law, Ethics, and Social Responsibility, Business 501 at Eastern New Mexico University for the fall semester 2015. Today's agenda, I'll be talking about the containment theory and defining it. I'll then go into the history of the containment theory, talk about the types of containment, different pushes and pulls, variables of control, strengths and weaknesses of the containment theory. Then I'll wrap things up with talking about the containment theory in the workplace. The containment theory defined. The containment theory asks the question, in a deviant society, why and how do people avoid deviance? The containment theory states that all humans are subject to criminal behavior, but many of us can resist this deviant behavior with the two buffers of inner and outer containment, and also that the probability of deviant behavior increases when the internal and external constraints weaken. The containment theory contends that there are two components to prevent criminal behavior in society. One is the outer containment, and the other is the inner containment. Outer containment is about community, socialization, and the application of social norms and rules. Inner containment is the controlling of oneself by favorable self-concept, frustration tolerance, and the ability to follow norms. Walter Reckless, the creator of the containment theory, suggested that people can be insulated from crime if properly socialized by their parents and peers and control him or herself. This is to say that the person will prevent himself or herself from committing criminal or unethical behavior by containing their impulses. If the individual fails at containing this impulse, then the second buffer of families or peers will attempt to dissuade them by counseling or talking to them. Reckless believed that in society there are external or outer factors and internal or inner factors. Now to talk about the history of the containment theory. The containment theory is one of the earliest control theories because it focused on what stops people from engaging in crime, or rather what contains people. Contains or containment essentially being used in place of the term controls from the social control theory. Containment theory was developed by Walter Reckless, who was an American criminologist. The containment theory was born in the 1950s and was one of the most popular theories in the 1950s and 1960s, but research and acceptance of the theory dropped off, and it is now not really applied in modern social science. The containment theory comes from the social control theory, which maintains that all humans have the capacity and potential to violate the law, and that in society they are presented with many opportunities for deviant behavior. Walter Reckless, the creator, did a series of studies with youths conducted in school settings and found that non-delinquent youths are better able to maintain positive self-concept when faced with societal and environmental pressures towards deviant behavior. Types of containment. There are two types, inner containment and outer containment. First, talking about the inner containment. Internal containment must have the following: a favorable self-concept, focus and goal orientation, frustration tolerance, being able to manage your frustration, shows high control and focus, retention of norms, very strong morals and ethics, well-developed ego and superego. The inner containment is the controlling of oneself. Inner is the impressions from our upbringing. Family is used as the main reference group. Inner containment is thought to be the more powerful containment force. For inner factors, it is important that one has a favorable image of oneself in comparison to other members of groups and persons. It is necessary that the person is able to follow the norms and rules of society to better understand the big picture. Outer containment. Outer containment must have the following: Inter internationalization of rules and limitations, meaningful role models, group reinforcement. Outer containment, which is about community, socialization, and the application of social norms, rules, and guidelines, laws, rules, and regulations of societal standards. So, types of containment, inner and outer. These two factors, the inner and outer, serve as buffers against crime. They are non-casual and merely try to show what can help prevent or possibly steer individuals toward criminal and unethical behavior. The ego and the superego are qualities that help one to hold up under pressures from the outside world and handle frustration and adversity. Now to talk about pushes and pulls. Reckless said that we are all put through experiences that push or pull an individual into deviant behavior. We can see pushes when children are threatened by other children to join a gang. An example of a pull is when a child sees that, in order to get money to buy things, he or she can join a gang and reach their objective. They are pulled into gang by its attraction and its way of earning status and making money. All factors that push an individual into criminal behavior are unhappiness with living conditions, like poverty, family issues, conflicts, over aggressiveness, anger, frustration, and hostility, socioeconomic problems, boredom, and racism. Some factors that can pull an individual into criminal behavior are delinquent peers, family members, subcultures like gangs. Now going into the variables of control. There are 7 variables of control. These control variables outline the characteristics of people and groups that dictate individuals' type of behavior. These are the inner and outer controls that keep an individual from engaging in criminal and unethical behavior. Some of the inner controls are favorable self concept, goal orientation, frustration tolerance, and retention of norms. Some of the outer controls are internalization of rules and limitations, meaningful role models, and group reinforcement. Now to talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of the theory. Some of the strengths, the theory is parsimonious, which is succinct, clear, and uncomplicated. Uses the least complex explanation for observations. Some other strengths are the internal consistency of the theory. The theory is clear, has clear inner and outer containment factors. And the theory is very sound logistically because it has very well defined factors and structure. Some of the weaknesses, which have uh, been building since the 1960s when the theory kind of lost steam, are it relies too heavily on the importance of self concept, which is a limited concept. Reckless is control mechanisms like pushes, pulls, inner and outer containments, and self concept. They have no constant meaning outside of personal interpretation. Some other weaknesses are the severe lack of empirical evidence concerning the relative importance of the 7 variables making up the inner and outer containment in their relationships to illegal behavior. Data gathered for the containment theory was all on young males, and a lot of evidence suggests that there is a major socialization difference between males and females. Therefore, they may act completely different in regards and methods to delinquency. A couple more weaknesses of the theory are there hasn't been very much testing done to decipher the results of the theory. Theory is not to be applied at the extremes of deviant behavior and is best suited to look at cases where legal and social norms have been neutralized. So, now talking about unethical behavior in the workplace. First, we're going to talk about some common unethical behaviors in the workplace, things that are more likely going to be happening at big corporations or places of work where there's a large number of people employed. Um, Top 5 are misusing company time, abusive behavior, employee theft, like embezzlement, lying and cheating, and violating company policies. Some pushes and pulls for unethical behavior, things that might possibly push or pull an individual into acting this way are need, a need that that person needs to meet, rationalization, convincing themselves that that's the right thing to do, opportunity. If these employees weren't given the opportunity, they would never commit these unethical or criminal acts. Pressure, whether that pressure is from family, friends, bosses, subordinates. Um, Uncertainty is also a push or a pull. Self interest, wanting to do something to put themselves on top or put themselves in a better position. Misguided loyalty, or simply not educated on ethical values, or maybe the person doesn't care about ethics. So, those are a couple of the common unethical behaviors and maybe what drives that person into making those decisions. So, now I'm going to talk about things that I believe can possibly change unethical behaviors in the workplace. First, I'm going to scope in on the individual. So, for an individual to change his or her actions, if making criminal and unethical decisions, is find a way to influence the individual's state, which is their model of the world and what shapes the individual. To do this, uncover the individual's target, and the target is what that person is after. I feel like if you find what the person is truly after, you could find a way to help them meet that goal in a ethical way. Communicate your belief systems, which will inform people on ethical versus unethical behavior and empower employees to make ethical decisions. Provide the fuel. This is what puts the individuals in a position to motivate themselves to work towards a common goal. And lastly, shape the six needs of the individual. And the six needs that I see or that I'm going to talk about today are certainty. I feel individuals need to feel certain about certain things. They also need some uncertainty, variety. If they're doing the same thing every day, they'll be bored out of their minds. So you have to give them some variety. Significance. I feel like everybody wants to feel significant. And in the workplace, if that's happening, the employee is most likely going to show loyalty and want to do the right things. Connection, along with showing loyalty and the employee doing the right things. If they're connected to the organization or the people that they work with, they're going to try to do right by them. The last two are grow as an individual or as a company. If you're not growing or constantly learning and developing, you're going to fail, whether it's as an individual or a company. And the last the last of the six needs is contribute. Every person, employee, everybody wants to contribute. They want to feel that they're giving something of value. And to touch a little bit more on these six needs, by meeting these six needs, employees will have the energy and drive to achieve a common goal. This will pull employees towards the vision of the company so that they are less likely to be pushed away by an outside factor or push themselves away. I believe significance is one of the strongest needs of the individual. Significance can go one of two ways. If somebody has no strong belief system or values or has no control of themselves, the fastest way to feel significant is to commit a criminal act. If someone walks up to you and they put a gun to your head, instantly they're significant. So I believe significance, steering that one in the ethical direction, could be the most powerful. So now we're going to talk about other ways to change unethical behavior in the workplace, but more so along the lines of an organization, not so much for the individual, but for the organization. So I'm going to talk about the 5 tenets of leadership that leverage 4 key strengths. Um, some things, and these tenets of leadership are pretty common, stuff that you see among major corporations around the world. The first is to create a compelling vision. Set a vision and a strategy for the future and inspire others to follow your vision. Second is model the way. Build trust through competence, openness, and integrity. The third is lead more, manage less. Rely more on coaching, teaching, and enabling. The fourth is communicate, listen, and involve your employees. And the fifth is make development a priority. If you develop the talents of your people, they will be more successful. And by doing this, it's empowering them and making them feel significant, making them feel that they are contributing, and you're going to get an ethical and loyal employee from doing these, in my opinion. And by a good balance of these tenets of leadership, you'll be able to leverage your four key strengths of any business, which is logic, analysis, drive for results, and directive leadership. To touch more on changing unethical behavior in the workplace along the lines of the organization, there are inner containments within the organization and outer containments within the organization. Now, these inner and outer containments are things that are going to these inner and outer containments of the organization are factors that are going to serve as buffers against crime. So these are going to be things that are going to keep the individual and the company within the ethical boundaries that they need to operate in. So for inner containments within the organization, there's values, vision, and mission statements. Differential association, which is associating with your work group or people that you commonly spend time with. You know, if you're spending time with people doing the right things, more than likely you're going to do the right things. And if you're spending time with people making unethical decisions, you'll most likely start making those unethical decisions and rationalizing those behaviors and decisions so that in your mind you feel like you're doing the right thing. Some other containments within the organization are workplace ethics training programs, group reinforcement, ethical leadership, stakeholder orientation. By stakeholder orientation, a lot of times employees have a stake in where the company goes and how the company does, and so they're more than likely going to be wanting the best things for the company. Outer containment within organizations. You have your government regulations, like your Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which forces companies to do the right thing and submit the proper paperwork and make sure that they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's and not letting companies get out of bounds, so to speak. Consumer Bill of Rights is another one. The institutionalization of business, your federal sentencing guidelines for organizations, FSGO, and shareholder orientation. A lot of times your shareholder orientation, those shareholders aren't necessarily directly involved with the company. They have a large amount of resources and monetary value at stake. So a lot of times they're willing to sacrifice ethics and doing the right thing for profit. And so that wraps up the containment theory. Here's a page of references, and